Haunted by a past mistake, David seeks redemption in a soup kitchen, each ladle a silent penance. But when a new volunteer spills a pot of soup mirroring his own shame, David faces a choice: judgment or grace. Watch as a shared act of kindness unlocks forgiveness and reveals that redemption isn't about perfection, but about offering compassion to others and to ourselves. The fluorescent lights of the soup kitchen hummed, casting a pale glow on the long line of people seeking warmth and a meal. David stood behind the serving table, his apron tight, a familiar knot of anxiety twisting in his stomach. Tonight, like every Friday, was a battle against the ghosts of his past. 7 years had passed since his mistake, but the memory was a constant ache, a shadow that followed him. He ladled soup mechanically, each scoop a silent offering, a penance he hoped would somehow lighten the burden of his guilt. "You don't deserve to be here," the anxiety whispered, a familiar refrain. David ignored it, focusing on the task at hand, on the faces of the people he was serving. He felt like an imposter. Then Chloe arrived, a whirlwind of nervous energy and youthful eagerness.
She was new to the soup kitchen, assigned to help David, and her presence momentarily broke through his dark thoughts.
Chloe's hands trembled as she carried the heavy pot of soup. David watched her, a flicker of concern in his eyes. Her youthful energy was a stark contrast to his own weariness. Then it happened. A stumble, a gasp, and the pot tipped, sending hot soup splashing across the floor. Silence fell over the room, broken only by the hiss of the liquid hitting the cold tiles. Chloe's eyes widened in panic. She expected David's anger, his judgment. Shame washed over her, hot and stinging like the spilled soup. But David's initial frustration quickly gave way to something else: recognition. He saw his own shame reflected in her eyes, his own fear of being found wanting. He bent down, picked up a mop, and handed it to her. "It's okay," he said, his voice rough but gentle. "We all make messes. The important thing is to clean them up." Together they cleaned. The spilled soup, the rhythmic swish of the mop, a silent act of forgiveness, a shared moment of understanding. David returned to the stove, starting on the second pot of soup. Chloe followed, her movements still hesitant but steadier now, her shoulders back a bit straighter. This was no longer penance, it was simply making soup, a shared task, a quiet act of kindness between two imperfect people. As the kitchen warmed, David felt a shift within him. The anxiety's grip loosened, replaced by a fragile sense of peace. He realized redemption wasn't about balancing the scales, but about choosing kindness, offering grace to others and to himself. He glanced at Chloe, her brow furrowed in concentration as she chopped vegetables. She was a reminder that everyone deserves a second chance, including him. He started humming softly, an old tune he hadn't sung in years. The sound filled the kitchen, a gentle melody of hope and forgiveness. Chloe looked up, smiled, and joined in the humming. The kitchen filled with their voices, a simple chorus of shared humanity. The line of people waiting seemed to lengthen, but David no longer felt the weight of the past. He felt lighter, freer, more present. He ladled soup with a newfound purpose, no longer driven by guilt, but by genuine compassion and a desire to help. Chloe worked beside him, her nervousness replaced by a quiet confidence. She was learning, growing, and finding her own purpose in helping others. The aroma of the soup filled the air, a comforting and inviting smell that promised warmth and nourishment. As the night wore on, David and Chloe worked in harmony, a silent partnership forged in shared vulnerability and forgiveness. The people they served were more than just faces in a line. They were individuals with stories, hopes, and dreams. David realized that everyone carried their own burdens, their own anxieties, their own need for forgiveness. And in the act of serving others, he found a way to serve himself, to heal his own wounds, and to find peace. The second pot of soup was almost empty, but the kitchen was full of warmth, laughter, and the quiet hum of forgiveness. As the last person left, David and Chloe stood in the quiet kitchen, a sense of shared accomplishment filling the air. "Thank you," Chloe said, her voice soft but sincere. "I learned a lot tonight." David smiled, a genuine, heartfelt smile. "Me too," he said, "me too." And as they walked out into the night, they carried with them not just the memory of the second pot of soup, but the promise of a brighter, more forgiving future.